These are a few rules that I applied to my daily routine, meaning that when I focus on doing the right thing, automatically you don't do it, right? I figured this way out where you can actually reverse psychology, your mind, by doing or knowing what not to do, and then automatically your brain kicks in and says, cool, this is the opposite. Here's the rules. So if you want to stay poor, start tomorrow. That's the first rule. You can even write that down. Start tomorrow. Then if you want to do the opposite, so automatically think, if you want to stay poor, this would apply to you. Start tomorrow. What's the opposite? Start today. Then secondly, if you want to stay poor, read lots of books and do nothing. If you want to do the opposite of that, read books and do the stuff in the books. It's not about how many books you read and, oh, you've read 20 books and you know everything out of the book, but you haven't even applied it to your life. Personally, I like to actually use books that I know I can apply to my daily life, so I don't really read fiction or anything like that. Yeah, read books and do the stuff in the books if you want to be rich. Thirdly, take advice from poor people on how to be rich. If you want to stay poor, take advice from poor people on how to be rich. If you're smart, you're going to do the opposite. Take advice from rich people on how to be rich. Common sense. And yet so many people take advice from people that are not where they want to be in life, out of the courtesy of being nice. Fourthly, if you want to stay poor, pick a spouse who will make you feel guilty for working. If you're smart, you'll do the opposite. Pick a spouse who makes you feel awesome about working. Someone that's on the same page as you, that knows why you're doing something in the first place, that you're dedicating time to something that is important and you have a soul mission, focused mission. So pick your spouse wisely. Then we have our next one. If you want to stay poor, fail once and quit forever. It's too challenging. Don't do anything. It's not for you. It doesn't work for you. It's not meant for you. Try it once and quit forever. If you want to stay poor, that applies to you. If you want to be rich, fail once, try again. You're going to find many challenges when it comes to something that you want to do. But don't see them as challenges, just see them as learning lessons that is one step higher onto the ladder of success. Keep going, you are going to see progress. Fail once, try again. Then our next one, if you want to stay poor, think that the world is fair. This is a big one, because when we start out, we look at the world and we are focused on how the world is just fair. It's a beautiful place, it's fair, everything is even, okay? When you look in reality, that's not the truth. Focus on reality, focus on facts. Think the opposite of that. Think the world is unfair and act accordingly. If you already know the rules of the game, you're not going to be shocked or surprised when something happens that doesn't go your way. Life is unfair, get with it. Our next one, if you want to stay poor, blame your circumstances and complain. I'm sure you guys have met people like that. They always have a complaint. Something's not going according to their plans. They blame their circumstances and they complain. If you're smart, you'll do the opposite. Pay very close attention. Never blame your circumstances. Thank your circumstances for making you who you are. Don't use it as something that hinders your progress or something that is standing in your way. Use it as fuel to keep pushing and own it. Honestly, use that as something that you can say, I went through that, which means I can go through anything and I can get out of it much more stronger, much more quicker. I'm more resilient. Focus on the positive. So when you catch your mind thinking the negatives, focus on the positive. What does it benefit you in obviously in terms of focusing on what is this? Obviously it wasn't that great, but how can I look at it in a positive light? And then if you want to stay poor, expect the government to save you. Expect the government to save you. It's as good as waiting for someone to do something for you and get it done or get the job done, and you just wait hours and hours and hours, and that automatically will lead to complaining and you blaming your circumstances anyway. If you want to stay poor, expect the government to save you. If you're smart and you want to think obviously and think the opposite and think to be rich, obviously you're going to focus on expect no one to save you except yourself. No one's coming to save you except you. Have that as your reality. Factual evidence is key. Our next one, if you want to stay poor, value the opinion of others over your own. That's the worst position to be in, because you're always going to look for validation from someone else to tell you that you're good enough. What happens if they tell you that you're not good enough? You're going to crumble. Very weak individual, right? So you don't want to fall under that. You don't want to be one of those poor thinking people. If you want to stay poor, focus and value on other people's opinion about yourself. If you want to think and be positive and be focusing on more of the rich side, you'll say value your opinion over those of other people. Only your opinion matters over who you are, because you spend the most time with yourself. So you would know yourself better. How can you expect someone else on the outside to know more about you? Very dangerous place to be in if you do value other people's opinions over your own. Next one, if you want to stay poor, avoid discomfort. Always look for the comfort of obviously making sure that everything is soft life, you're having good, relaxed state of being. Avoid discomfort. But the key to think in the opposite, to be rich, is seek out discomfort. That doesn't mean go out of your way to do something ridiculous, but it's seeking out discomfort, knowing where you need to push your limits in terms of going that extra step, extra mile, finding that resilience, that push, that drive, that if you just do something out of your comfort zone, you might actually see that you're reaching new heights and you are breaking limitations that you thought you couldn't break before, which builds your confidence at the same time. If you want to obviously think opposite, to be rich, you're going to seek out discomfort. Then our next one, if you want to stay poor, this would apply to you. Tolerate mediocrity. If you want to stay poor, what's the opposite of that? Tolerate nothing but excellence. Nothing but excellence. Our next one, if you want to stay poor, make promises, break promises. Nobody likes someone like that. They make a promise and then they break the promise. How is someone like that going to be trustworthy? So if you want to stay poor, make promises, break promises. What does it actually mean? Doesn't really mean anything. So if you want to stay poor, that would apply to you. But if you want to obviously do the opposite, to be rich, make promises, keep promises. Your word is important. If you say you're going to do something, actually do it. It's not about the other person, of you keeping that promise. Actually, it's more important for you to pay attention to yourself and say that if you're making this promise, you're keeping this promise, which means you can trust yourself to be able to keep your word, which means if you tell yourself, today I'm going to finish this book, today I'm going to run a 10K, you're telling yourself that. You've built that promise, that belief that you can trust yourself. Pay close attention to how you are saying things, how you're keeping your word, because it also starts with you. So if you break promises with other people, you're probably going to do that to yourself as well. So that's a few of those. And then we have quite a lot actually, because these are very important rules I personally write down. I have it all written down with the opposite, obviously how to think in the opposite direction, and then how to obviously think to be rich. So you know what not to do, and automatically you'll think of what you have to do in order to be rich. So the next one is how to stay poor. Wait for the perfect conditions. I'm sure you guys have experienced this before. You'll hear someone say, okay, no, I'm waiting for the right time. I'm waiting for this perfect thing, just for everything to align, and then I will be ready. And what always happens is you'll never be ready. There's always going to be something to stop you, to talk you out of doing something. If you want to stay poor, wait for the perfect conditions. Now, do the opposite to be rich. Wait for the worst conditions, wait for imperfect conditions, and act anyways on what you want. There's never going to be the most perfect condition out there, and that's just going to align and you're going to do everything perfectly according to your schedule. That almost never happens. So do it anyways, get the job done, and win anyway. The next one would be, if you want to stay poor, prioritize looking rich over being rich. Now, if you're smart, you'll do the opposite to be rich. Prioritize actually being rich. Ignore the rest, ignore stuff that doesn't matter. Focus on the goal ahead. So prioritize actually being rich. Actually being rich. No point in looking rich, but your wallet says otherwise. So if you want to be rich, focus on actually being rich. Then our next one, if you want to stay poor, this would apply to you. Avoid working on what matters most. Avoid it. Do something else. It's not important anyway. Stay poor. Now, if you want to do the opposite to be rich, avoid working on the stuff that doesn't matter. Work on the things that matters most. Ignore the rest. You do not want to multitask and have so many things all at once, and you don't actually give your all in that one task at hand. What I like to do is I like to section things out throughout the day. I like to know, cool, I'll be focusing on answering all emails, business calls, and I'll get all of that done during a certain period of time. If I'm at the gym, I'll focus solely on my body, my mind, and focusing on that task at hand. So don't try and mesh all of them together. Focus on each thing, prioritize each thing that is important. Anything that's just a pain in the, just avoid it, move on. It doesn't actually serve you at all. So be very selective with that as well. Then next one, if you want to stay poor, say you're going to do something and then don't do it. Say you're going to do something and don't do it. That's a simple way for you to stay poor. Then do the opposite if you want to be rich. Say you are going to do something and then actually do it. Remember I told you, keep your word, not only to those around you, because you're building those trust relationships with others, but also you're building that trust relationship with yourself so that you can say, you know what, I can actually be counted on. I think I can actually say something and I can stick to it and I can do it and I can pull through and I'm accountable for that. So focus on that. Then the next one, if you want to stay poor, do what everyone else is doing. If you want to stay poor, do what everyone else is doing. If they go there, you go there. If they jump off the bridge, you jump off a bridge. If they decide they're going to do something crazy, jump on a car, you're going to jump on a car as well. If you want to stay poor, do what everyone else is doing. But if you're smart, you'll do the opposite. Do what no one else is doing. Sometimes the best things that you can do is be someone that's, in other terms, just a hidden wolf, right? A shadow, someone that is not noticed too much. Do what no one else is doing because you can focus and you won't be bothered when someone says, oh, let's go here. You'll be like, no, I'm busy. I'm focused on something that's important. Oh, let's go here. Let's go and spend here. Let's go and do this trip. No, I'm actually focused. I'm busy with something else. So do what no one else is doing and focus on that. Then our next one would be is, if you want to stay poor, do your best, not what it takes. Do your best, but not what it takes. Just make it every single time. So that's if you want to stay poor, that would apply to you. Do your best, not what it takes. If you want to do the opposite to be rich, do your best and make it above what it takes to be successful. So do your best, but push your limits. Push it even more so that you know, cool, if I can do 1 kilometer today, can I do 2 kilometers the next day? Can I do 5 kilometers the next day? So push those boundaries, do your best and make it above what it takes to be successful because it will require more from you. So we have a few others. I hope you're writing this down. These are very important ones as well. You can stick it on your wall, you can put it on your mirror. Focus on that whenever you feel like you need to retrain your mind and your brain waves of thinking and you feel like you're going into your old patterns, just look at that and read through. The best way to do it is read the part that says how to stay poor because your brain will automatically trick you into thinking the opposite. So if you look at that, you'll be like, okay, cool, what's the definition? Cool, that's what I should do the opposite. Let's keep that going. So how to stay poor. The next one, so talk more, do less. So keep talking, do less. It's easy to talk about stuff, but it's also really bad if you keep talking about something you're going to do and then you never end up doing it anyway. Okay, so talk more, do less. Now do the opposite to be rich. Talk less, do more. You'll start to notice the pattern, right? What's the difference? How to stay poor? Talk more, do less. So talk more. If you want to do the opposite, talk less, do more. Then our next one is start something new today, start something new tomorrow. That's if you want to stay poor. So today you're going to do something, tomorrow you're going to do a new thing, the day after that you're going to do a new thing. There's always going to be something new. But if you want to do the opposite to be rich, start something new today and keep at it until you are good. Do it so long that it would be unreasonable for you to be bad. So keep at it till you become so good at it that it even becomes boring. So be really good at that. Start something new and stick at it. Our next one, if you want to stay poor, believe what other people think about you more than what you think about yourself. The opposite of that would be don't believe what other people think about you more than what you think about yourself. Very important, so write that down. Then our next one would be make a mistake, then wait and repeat. Make a mistake, then wait and repeat if you want to stay poor. That's the thinking you should have. If you want to stay poor, make a mistake, then wait and repeat. But if you want to do the opposite, to be rich, make mistakes, then learn from it and never repeat it again. Then, our next one, if you want to stay poor, be replaceable. Do something that is easily replaceable that's going to keep you poor. Do the opposite. Be irreplaceable. Be so good at what you do that it will be really challenging to replace you, and you will know that. So be irreplaceable. Then our next one, if you want to stay poor, do what everyone else is doing and do it for less. Do what everyone else is doing and do it for less. When it comes to business, you also don't want to be the cheapest person on the market, because remember, there's lots of costs when it comes to business and things like that, and you want to make sure that you're not doing it for less, especially if you know that it's supposed to be more. If you want to stay poor, do what everyone else is doing, do it for less. But if you're smart, you'll do the opposite. Do what everyone else is not doing, do it for more. So be unique in the market, not too unique, but also know your value that you bring. Do what everyone else is not doing and do it for more. Then the next one, if you want to stay poor, find something that works and then stop doing it. So as soon as you find something that works, then, stop doing it if you want to stay poor. But if you're going to think the opposite, what is the opposite of that? So find something that works and don't stop doing it. Keep doing it until you are bored out of your mind, because you're so good at doing that thing that works. Be so good at it. Find something that works, keep at it, and then just own it. You'll be the best one in that field. And then we have about 3 left on that. I hope you've been writing everything down so you can stick it on your wall, you can look at it in your mirror or your room or whatever, on your office desk, or wherever you mainly spend your time, and look at it. You are training your mind to become unstoppable, unshakable, and that's where you want to get to. If you want to stay poor, hire dumb people. It sounds simple, and yet people do it every single day. If you want to stay poor, hire dumb people. If you want to do the opposite, to be rich, hire smart people. The best thing you can do as a CEO or founder of any company is make sure that you hire people that are so capable of their job that they do it better than you, which means you can obviously take that task and give it to them, and they do it 10 times better than you, and it's a team that is a win-win. Okay, I like to work with people that is obviously 10 out of 10, if not 12 out of 10 above me, where they are better than me at something because they need to do that task. I know there's a team, there's an ecosystem of winners, which means that obviously I'm in good hands. So, recipe for success. So hire smart people. Then we have, if you want to stay poor, assume you are always right. There's some people that always want to be right, but there's always new things you can learn, and this is what rich obviously think is, you always know that there's something to learn, there's new knowledge, and if you don't understand something, ask. So if you want to stay poor, assume you are always right. But if you want to think the opposite, to be rich, assume you are always wrong and be willing to learn. Always be willing to learn. Obviously have confidence in the things that you're very skilled at, but don't think that you know everything, because there's always new things to learn. And then lastly, we have how to stay poor, make money, spend more than you make. A lot of people do that as well. So if you want to stay poor, this is the perfect method for you. Make money, spend more than you make. Now, if you want to be smart, as we conclude, if you want to do the opposite, to be rich, make money and spend less than you make. Awesome. These are my rules. These are things I've learned along the way. These are things I've also applied to my life. Every single rule on there, the thinking, the mind space, the thought process of how to navigate through the whole process of success in terms of self-help, self-discovery, self-improvement. I would suggest that you go and look this video over as many times as you want, and obviously look through the list and say, these are the few things that I'm actually lacking in and I need to improve. Or you'll start to notice, these are a few things that I never noticed that I was actually doing, which is hindering me from becoming successful. Because remember, it's not the things that you are not doing, but the things you're actually doing that is stopping you from getting to that end result that you want. And years will pass before you realize that you're making these mistakes. Firstly, look these lists or all these points that I've pointed out for you today, and then make sure you apply them and really be brutal with yourself, because if you want to be successful, it's going to require a lot more from you. Do the work today and your future self will obviously thank you later.